Hello everyone, I'm Ellie Stutz. Welcome to today's webinar, Social BPM, the Path to Extreme Collaboration with Sequence Kinetics. As I said, I'm your host. I'm the Head of Knowledge and Collaboration for PNMsoft. And joining me today will be our panelist, Adrian Cole, who is Operations Manager for PNMsoft. The agenda is as follows. First, we're going to be talking about the concept of Social BPM. Then I'll be showing you a demo of Social BPM features within Sequence Kinetics, our intelligent BPM suite. Then we'll be taking some questions from you, and we'll be asking some questions to Adrian. So social media, we are in the midst of a revolution. Probably most of you who are watching this webinar today have, at some point of time in the day, been on either Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. I have some statistics here which I saw today from a Huffington Post article which surveyed 2012 and brought out some pretty impressive statistics on the use of social media. As you can see, 1 million websites have integrated with Facebook. 23% of users check Facebook 5 times or more daily. 56% of customer tweets are being ignored. 34% of marketers have generated leads on Twitter. Google's +1 button is used by 5 million times a day, and over 5 million are uploaded to I think that's photos are uploaded to Instagram every hour. So with such a ubiquitous use of social media outlets, this is something which the business world cannot afford to ignore. And it hasn't actually ignored this. Actually, there's in fact a good chance that this webinar, which is being presented to you, is the fact that you're here is because you may have seen this on LinkedIn, which is obviously a social media tool. As I said, the business world has not ignored social media, and Gartner identifies that social is one of the 4 elements in what it calls extreme collaboration. This is from a Gartner report, a recent report on the direction that business operations are taking, that businesses have to take into account 4 areas in order to achieve what Gartner calls extreme collaboration: mobile, cloud, information, and social. So the top analyst here putting social as one of the 4 major elements of collaboration within business. Just a quote here from Dr. David Good, the Department of Social and Developmental Psychology at Cambridge. Social network technologies are seen by companies as a major opportunity for improving collaboration, managing knowledge, connecting with clients, and generally helping individuals to feel part of a business. So what we're seeing here is that something which started in a private field, in the private area, has now crept over the years into the field of business. And actually, here we can see that that historical development, where in 2005 we started to see social networks such as Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn used for marketing for businesses. Then a few years later, we started to see the appearance of enterprise social networks. Those were tools such as Yammer and Chatter, which were similar to social networks such as Facebook and Twitter, but were being leveraged for internal collaboration within organizations using the social features of those original social media networks. 2010, we started to see integration of social features within such systems as ERP, CRM, ECM, and BPM products. We started to see social features being introduced in a small way, and today we're actually going to see how they have already become a big part of our product, Sequence Kinetics. And this year and moving into next year, we're starting to see businesses move from a traditional framework of communication to this extreme collaboration, which Gartner has given a name to. And I'm not going to read out all these statistics, but just yet more facts flowing in about the pervasiveness of social networking, social practices within business. 85% of Fortune 500 companies are on Yammer, which is an enterprise social network. And that's obviously an amazing statistic, and just showing how pervasive the social media tools are becoming within business. Another statistic which is important that Nucleus research states, especially among salespeople, productivity gains are showing social CRM has a positive impact on productivity. So there we're actually starting to see an analysis of, are social media tools actually improving productivity within businesses? Not just are businesses using them, but are they actually being helpful? And that's something we're going to take a look at today, especially in the demo that's coming up. So what's the idea behind Social BPM? The idea behind Social BPM is to enable people, process participants, to collaborate in the most natural manner on process development, execution, and optimization. So here in the center of the screen you see a process, a very simple process, and the idea is to involve, to enable communication and collaboration between the various process participants. So it's not a one-to-one relationship of each process participant with the particular task which he or she must accomplish, but it's a much more social environment where groups of people are collaborating on tasks, sharing information. And really the idea is to take the best parts of the social media revolution, those elements, and see how we can leverage those elements for business process improvement, success, and better performance. And I've identified those parts as being the element of presence, the element of sharing, the element of communication, and finally an interesting last element which I've added, and I'll try to highlight how that comes into play, the element of opinion. And along with those elements which we try to bring into the business world, into the business process management world, we have some challenges. Suddenly when information is so much more readily broadcasted to so many more people, we have to be more careful about information security, not sending out data which should not, or information which should not reach some people's ears or some people's eyes, and also preventing misuse, making sure that employees who are given social media tools do not abuse them and maybe become addicted to their yammer or chatter, as opposed to actually using it for better performance at work. So here's a very basic example of an HR employee recruitment process where social media would come into play. We have an employee applying for a job, and the initial process participant adds a social media comment saying that the applicant is missing a reference. And then during the background check and the consequent manager approval, we have a question and answer. The manager asks the background checker, how are the applicant's references? And the background checker responds that the references were fine, but one was missing. So we have this kind of meta information sharing that goes on above the process, surrounding the process, and something which aids the process towards a better conclusion, towards a more appropriate conclusion. That's really the idea. We're adding a layer of information sharing over and surrounding the process. Here's a little more advanced example here where we compare a case with Social BPM and a case without Social BPM. We have a manufacturing company in which an R&D manager has to approve a change request to a product. So the process starts with a change request. When it gets to the effects of the change, the engineer wants to assess the effects of the change, but he doesn't have the ability to consult others. That's without Social BPM. And when it gets to the manager approval, he doesn't know that the engineer needed to consult others or that the engineer wasn't able to do that, and he approves the change request. In our case with Social BPM, it's the same case, but during the effects of change activity, the engineer can ask his question to a field agent, and the field agent is aware that there were problems and answers that question, and the question and answer are seen by the manager, who then declines the request for change based on that extra information. So that's kind of a real life type example where the social features are going to change the actual outcome of the process for the better. Now we're actually going to jump straight into how Sequence Kinetics implements and offers social BPM features, and we're going to go to our demo right now. I ask you to hold steady for a moment while I play that for you. Right now we're going to see how social BPM features work in practice. We're looking at the Sequence Kinetics flow time interface, and this is of course the environment where end users and managers run and manage processes. We've logged in as Ben, who is a manager of a customer service team, and we're going to see how Ben and his team use Sequence Kinetics social BPM features to communicate with each other about processes and how these features improve the collaboration of Ben's team and ultimately improve process performance. So Ben is going to kick off a service request, which he's received from a customer. And this is the initial form of that request, and Ben begins to fill out the fields of the form. And at some point, Ben decides that it would be important to add a comment which other process participants are going to see. And to do that, he simply clicks here on comments, and then he writes the subject of the comment, and this is a piece of information that, for example, he knows from speaking with the customer, and he wants to make sure that other process participants are aware of this. Ben can select the comment mode as either public or private. In fact, if Ben selects private, then only Ben will be able to see this comment. So it may be relevant for him just as a memory device, but if he wants others to see it, he should leave it as public, and he clicks send. Now Ben's comment has been added to the process wall for others to see. So, for example, if Ben were to submit this form, and then it goes off to Mark, Peter, and Tom, who are other process participants, and let's say now we're going to log in as Peter. We'll log out of Ben's flow time here. Okay, and now let's log in as Peter. Okay, so here we are logged in as Peter. If we go to open this process which Peter has received, okay, we can fetch it because it's basically been delivered to in a queue, and now Peter's fetched it as one of the 3 process participants to receive it in that queue. Now Peter sees that there's a comment here on that process. He clicks here and he sees Ben's comment. So that's something that he has that extra bit of information that Ben wanted to share, and it's right there for him. And of course, right now Peter could add a comment of his own. And now we've got 2 comments there. Notice that both users have their photos here, so that helps just add the little personal touch so they can identify each other, and that enhances the collaboration feeling among the team. And as both these comments are public, so every process participant will be able to see them. So that's just a simple example of comments. Now let's say Peter isn't sure about something. He wants to ask a question to another one of the process participants. So what he'll do is he'll click here on questions, and then Peter can ask a question to someone else in the process, someone else along the way, or anyone else really in the organization. Let's say in this case, he wants to ask Betty, who might be in charge of financial matters, a question. Okay, and then here again, Peter can choose to make the question mode public or private. Now in this case, if he makes it private, then only himself and the person he's asking, which is Betty, will see the question and the answer. Whereas if he makes it public, then any of the process participants can see it. So for now, we'll leave it public and we'll hit send. Now Peter has asked that question. And now we'll log in as Betty, and we'll be able to answer that question. Okay, so we've logged in as Betty here, and what Betty sees in her inbox is this little icon, which means that she's received a question from someone on this process, and we even actually have the process instance number here, and of course the date it was received, and the question subject as well. So the subject, which process we're talking about, it's a service request, and the instance number, we've got it right there. So Betty can open up Peter's question, and that goes straight to the process wall questions, and she can answer the question. Okay, and then she answers it, and then if we were to go back to Peter's login, we would see her answer in his inbox. So he gets the answer he needs, and in that way, we have better collaboration. We have the ability to ask and answer questions, add comments, simply increasing the amount of information flowing between process participants. Another powerful feature here is that a user can ask a question not only to a specific person, but also to an entire department or role within the organization. And this is done by the Choose Recipients window here. Here we see the users, and if I were to choose departments, I could send a question to an entire department, or I could send a question to a specific type of role within the organization. So that's just an additional level of power where you can broadcast a question to multiple people according to a specific role or department. And this is how things start to look when we've got several questions and answers on the process wall. Quite active, obviously, and a lot of collaboration there between the team members. And in this way, we're going to see less bottlenecks. We're going to see better customer satisfaction because we get their questions answered, we give better service, and simply less errors and better teamwork among the process participants. And that's all through using the process wall here for questions and comments, and simply just making use of that. Finally, it's important to mention that all of this question and answer and comment data is saved within the system attached to each process. So it's not separate, it's not in a separate email server or some other kind of application. It goes along with the process, and thereby it provides effectively an audit trail when it comes to information surrounding the process, which can be easily accessed by a manager who's trying to track what exactly happened with the process. And right now, actually, we're looking at the Process to Go mobile BPM application. And here, too, users can add Social BPM comments to processes as follows. And here you can choose if the comment will be visible to everyone or not. That's really the public or private option. And what's important is that we've given users the ability to communicate that extra social information not only on PC but also via mobile device. And that clearly extends the organizational collaboration capabilities. Sequence Kinetics flow time is based on Microsoft SharePoint, and it includes a variety of additional social features, such as the ability to conduct a team discussion on various issues, which obviously promotes the back and forth of information and resolving of questions and answers, and giving tips and the like. There's the ability to like items, which is obviously a social media feature, and also the ability to write notes to a note board on items. And here we've got the ability just to bring that into a kind of social media feed. Finally, there's the ability to rate items, and this gives users the capability to communicate value between each other and on the team as far as the value of each item or process or document. Another important social BPM feature from within Sequence Kinetics is Skype presence. Skype 6.1 has now integrated with Microsoft products such as Outlook and SharePoint, and hence from within Sequence Kinetic lists, users can view each other's Skype presence. The green indicates that the user is online on Skype and available for speaking with or chatting with. And this is an additional highly social way for users to communicate with each other from within Sequence Kinetics BPM. And here, for example, I could start a conversation with this user, whether by email, by instant message, by phone. And this obviously another great tool for communication and collaboration from within the BPM suite. Now, how is all this configured? It's very simple. In the Sequence App Studio, where the person who's designing this process creates the process, the developer or the power user, whoever it is, simply selects, and this is a default, it's already selected, to enable comments and to enable Q&A on the process, and that's just in the social features area of the properties tab. And even more than that, the process designer can actually even customize the question and answer format by clicking here, and this is actually the custom format of the subject and the body of the question, but this can be customized if the designer unclicks use the default question template, and then the developer can actually add additional fields. For example, using the parameters that we display here in order to give even more information about the question or the answer. In addition, the designer can decide whether or not the question is sent to the participant's personal email as well, or company email, I should say, as well, or whether it's only sent, if none is selected, then it's only sent to their inbox in flow time. So normally send link is selected as default. So we've got the ability to also customize the question and answer format here, and of course the ability to enable or disable these options. And as I said, by default they are enabled. In addition, we have the ability, if you're a administrator, then you'll have the ability to upload a user's photograph, and this is obviously something which enhances the kind of the teamwork nature here. So you would simply select the select button and then find the photograph, upload it, and then that team member has his or her photograph right beside their questions and answers. Very similar to obviously popular social networks such as Facebook and the like, or LinkedIn, where you see the person's face right there. We're basically taking the best parts of Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and these very popular social networking tools, and we're leveraging those better parts for real business benefits when it comes to process performance. Well, that wraps up the demo part where we see how we actually use Social BPM features within Sequence Kinetics. As I said, very easy to use within the flow time and extremely easy to configure within the administration environment. Okay, and speaking of questions and answers, we're actually going to take some questions and answers right now. I'd like to introduce again Adrian Cole, who is our operations manager at PNMsoft. Adrian is an experienced IT professional with a blend of technical and managerial experience. He's built his IT experience in telecom, and he's had subsequent roles in global support and technical account management. And currently, as operations manager at PNMsoft, he heads up the UK product specialist team, and he manages projects and ensures successful deliveries to PNMsoft clients. Are you with us, Adrian?
Hi, Emily. Hi there.
Okay, so I'd like to ask you a few questions regarding Social BPM. The first question is, where do you see the need for social features in BPM projects? And if you could give a couple examples, if there is a need there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I see social features should really be considered in all BPM projects now. I mean, socializing and collaborating on a business process is really the natural extension of what we're seeing in the tech sector outside of the workplace. So, for example, people are now familiar with messaging and sites such as Facebook and Twitter, where they post status updates, they comment and consult with their friends, get opinions, get recommendations for, I don't know, a restaurant or something like that. And I think that's indicated by the stats that you showed earlier on in the webinar. And I think Social BPM allows users to extend those habits that they've developed into the workplace. So, for example, I can now ask a colleague for their opinion on something using our Q&A forums, and Sequence Kinetics can alert me when somebody responds to that. As an example, we're using the questions and answers feature that you just demonstrated internally on our own expense claim process, so that now, as a manager, I can ask questions to somebody who submitted an expense claim without necessarily rejecting the whole process, or I could ask another manager for their opinion on something. And rather than it being a conversation by the kettle or by the water cooler where it's not audited, we've now got that information, those responses and those decision points captured within Sequence.
I can also vouch for the fact, Adrian, that PNMsoft has a major telecom client who actually has been using question and answer Social BPM features for a couple of years already, and now it's actually available within Sequence Kinetics out of the box. So that client is very happy now to have that feature available. But it was so necessary for them that actually that was designed especially for them a couple of years back, and now that's something we can offer to all our clients. Another question I have for you is that do you feel that Social BPM features can actually deliver real business benefit and value, and if so, how?
Yeah, I think so, and in a number of ways. For example, Social BPM features allow you to tap into the organization's collective intelligence. So what I mean by that is I can be the workflow or the task owner, but I can ask colleagues or other teams for their opinions, and thus that knowledge is propagated through the organization. Another more sort of a metric is about having an example of business benefit driving down the time to delivery of a BPM project. So at PNMsoft, we advocate a BPM-based project delivery cycle of analysis, design, build, deploy, and monitor with rapid cycles of let's say, sort of 12 to 16 weeks between iterations. So what the social features provide us as a project delivery team is a lot more capability for things like ad hoc tasks, which would take additional time to map and configure if they were to be pre-configured within that phase 1 workflow delivery. So using questions and answers as a feature, my team can shortcut the time to deliver a first iteration workflow to the business and get the business users more engaged in an iterative project, because we can fulfill some of the gaps within that workflow using the Q&A. Let me give you an example. I mean, we have a client who's using the questions and answers within a workflow to engage with third-line support teams. The incident workflow is owned by the second-line support team, but they use the questions and answers to get responses from one or more of the third-line teams. In further phases, further iterations of that workflow build, we may build out those third-line tasks as specific workflow task activities based on this matrix of product and service level and so on. But there's an element of process discovery and standardization which we need to go through with the client on that journey before we get there. So using Q&A has allowed us to deploy the process, start getting user feedback, and plan the next iteration of the workflow to maximize the business benefit. And that may or may not include extending the configuration to the tasks I just mentioned.
Okay. Now, how can BPM project leaders ensure that social BPM features will be used for better process performance and that they won't just create extra chatter and perhaps even misuse?
Yeah, good question there. I think additional chatter it is going to be a byproduct of using social BPM. Though hopefully from my previous responses you'll agree it's not necessarily a bad thing. And I think unnecessary chatter can be reduced through education. It's all about adapting working practices to the changing tech landscape that we're already familiar with outside of work and harnessing it to the best advantage. So, using collaboration and knowledge sharing and process improvement and so on. I mean, you mentioned earlier that all the comments and question and answers entries are stored within Sequence, so you can report on user volumes, you can look at which workflows generate the most questions or comments and so on, and you can also use that information to highlight where to focus efforts on optimizing your workflows. So another example of a good use of the question and answers is actually to have a team set up as a recipient. Let's call them the process improvement team or continuous process improvement team, and allowing users to raise questions to that team to suggest process improvements of the workflow that they're using at the time.
Okay. Finally, what kind of social BPM features do you envision for the future?
So I think at the moment, within, we have the area outside of work, and then we have, our features around social BPM within the product. And I think what we'll see in the future is things like business processes being initiated from social feeds like Twitter. So for example, if your company provides a product or service, you can monitor Twitter and once you get a threshold of activity or certain keywords are being used, then you could kick off a workflow at that point to alert people or to push something into product marketing as an example. Also the ability to send information back the other way, so to post comments within Sequence Kinetics, have them reviewed, let's say again by the by the marketing team, something like that, and then push them out to as tweets or Facebook updates and things like that from within Sequence.
Okay, thanks very much for those great answers, Adrian. Actually, stay on with us, Adrian, because I'd like to open the field now to questions from the audience of this webinar, continuing with the theme of questions and answers. We already have some questions, and you can add some more in the questions widget of your GoToWebinar interface. So Joan is asking, I'd like to learn more about the adoption process, shifting from using email for these process conversations and gaining compliance. Adrian, how would you recommend encouraging clients and process participants to shift away from email and more towards the social BPM features?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, what we have within Sequence Kinetics is the ability, and I think you showed it earlier anyway, you can configure sequence notifications and notifications for questions and answers to also be sent via email. So I think there's a question here around business change and user adoption. And from my perspective, I always see sort of business change as a sort of a process where you get as much buy-in as possible. So the way I'd see it is with the first implementations of Q&A and comments, that the email is enabled to allow people to still use that interface, but it's through a process of rolling out further workflows of user education, where maybe that notification via email can be suppressed or turned off for certain users or for certain workflows, so that they're using the Sequence portal to as the source of their questions and answers and the tasks that they're being allocated.
Okay, we have another question here. How does the tool connect the conversation to related image artifacts, for example, court cases or graphic material?
That would be part of the workflow. So each question and answer, each comment at the moment is attached to a specific workflow instance. There's reporting that you can put across that if you want to be able to see questions and answers from multiple workflows. But the architecture behind this is that each question and answer, each comment is uniquely attached to its individual workflow that it's running.
Okay, one more question from George, who's asking, is it mandatory that the user be registered on Sequence Kinetics to participate in discussions of the process?
It is from a perspective of interacting with the Sequence workflow, but we've certainly done some implementations before where we have anonymous users creating a workflow, so I'm sure that could be extended out to the questions and answers as well.
Okay, that's great. I encourage all of you listening to write us in with more questions, and actually even after this webinar you can write me les@pnmsoft.com with more questions, and we'll have that contact information at the end. So I want to thank you for your questions and keep asking them. I wanted to mention that Sequence Kinetics Unified Comms includes quick integration with present management technologies. We saw that with Skype, but that also includes the ability to connect in with Microsoft Link, IVR, SMS, and Twitter, all as part of our unified comms. And finally, just to kind of sum up what we've been looking at today, some of the benefits we've seen of Social BPM: increased information sharing between members of a team, preventing errors. We saw that in one of our examples. Users can warn each other about potential problems. Solving issues. Users can more easily ask and get answers on their questions. Increasing the collaborative spirit on a team and thereby increasing the team's productivity. Removing information holes and blind spots, because we're filling in these holes and blind spots with much more information sharing. Reducing process bottlenecks. And I guess this is a key one here, which I mentioned at the beginning and also during our demo, leveraging social media behavior for better team performance and results. I think that really, that almost sums it up here. We're using the better parts of social media, all the pluses for better team performance and results. And finally, we also saw in the demo extending social collaboration to mobile devices, because social and mobile are so intertwined today that social BPM features must be connected to mobile devices in order to be effective. This is just taking a look at the lighter side of social BPM. This is when social process management goes wrong. As you can see, there's a little bit of misuse here, as we talked about. So we should, some of the things we should try to avoid. I think that as we're kind of laughing at this little cartoon, I think that on a more serious note, when we introduce social BPM features to a team, we want to go over best practices with them. You know, how to use it, how not to use it, what to watch out for, how to be careful about information security when within a click of a button you can send out a message to a whole lot of people and maybe not even realize who it's being sent to. So I think that with all these advantages, we have to move forward in a careful way, in a practical way, and certainly educate our BPM teams as far as best practices. Just want to give a little sum up of who we are and what we do. Sequence Kinetics is an intelligent business process management software which extends Microsoft platforms such as SharePoint, Dynamics, and Azure with unparalleled mobile, social, and hot change capabilities. And we do manage business processes for businesses and public sector organizations worldwide. I encourage you as well to follow us on your favorite social media network, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or YouTube. And the easiest way to do that actually is to go straight to our website. And this is our own website at PNMsoft. And right at the bottom of the page, you have links to follow us on those various social media networks. And you'll hear more about webinars coming up. You'll hear pieces of information about the world of BPM and intelligent BPM, and especially in our YouTube channel, you get to see all of our videos with information on BPM. To contact us, you can reach us. First of all, you can reach myself at les@pnmsoft.com, and you can contact PNMsoft here with this information. You're also welcome to visit our website and sign up for a free BPM workshop for your company, where you can discover how BPM can benefit your organization. And that's, again, by going to our website. And just to make it super easy, you'll just go straight to here and click on this button, and you can either sign up for a demo or a BPM workshop. I'd like to thank Adrian for being with us today. I'd like to thank you all for joining in this webinar. This webinar will be available again on our internet website, and we look forward to presenting more webinars, monthly webinars on various BPM topics. Thanks very much for being with us today.